Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the In the Zone podcast. Ladies, don't be scared to put your headphones on so you can hear what's happening out in these streets.
Trying to plug your stuff.
Yeah, well, let's go. Hey, Did y'all miss me? It's been a couple of weeks. I hope you had a good time with the ladies 2 weeks ago. They came in, they tried to, school you a little bit on what's going on with the mind of a black woman. I think I wound up schooling them, though. I think that's what wound up happening. And then we took a week off last week. I hope you had an enjoyable, drink-filled, sun-filled Memorial Day weekend. I know it rained a little bit in the shop, but I know a lot of y'all took your opportunities to take your vaccinated asses out of town. That's what's up. I support that shit wholeheartedly. Hey, we jumping right back in this today. We are What's in It for the Black People Media. It is the In the Zone podcast. Your man B. Foster's in the building. I'm looking forward to this one. I missed y'all. I don't like not running my mouth with y'all for so long.
Did you though?
Did I what?
Actually miss In the Zone?
Not you, but y'all.
Fine.
Y'all, I miss y'all and shit. Hey, today we're going to have an interesting conversation. This was sparked by a conversation that's in the Zone podcast page. If you are not on the In the Zone podcast page, look it up. Ask for permission. I shall allow you to join. We have some fantastic conversations, and yesterday sparked a really good one, and we were having a conversation about co-parenting. A friend of mine was having an internal struggle about whether or not she should invite the father of her children and her ex-husband to their graduations, as he was not really an active participant in their lives. Led me to thinking that co-parenting is a hard piece, harder for some than others, and I wanted to have a nice panel discussion and holler about it and see what we could break down and maybe get some tips, some tricks, school some folks, maybe pull the bull over some motherfuckers' eyes. You suck, mama. You suck as a mama. It ain't always the daddies. You suck, mama. Get your shit right. Anyway, let me introduce my panel real quick. I got my man on the line. My man, 50 grand, my boy, E. Young. What's going on, baby?
What's happening, my man? What's happening? What's happening to everybody?
Hey. My man was giving me shit, man. CP time. We had technical issues. That happens when you're in studio, and it's been a couple of weeks. Then I got my girl. I think you've only been on education conversations so far.
Also, Stella got her.
Oh, and Stella. That's right. And Stella. That's right. So you've done a movie. You've done some education conversations, but you have not been in studio yet. You have not had the down and dirty talk.
First time in the studio, yeah.
Welcome, my girl, Melitzi. What's happening?
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, don't be afraid of talking to that mic.
I ain't afraid of no mic.
I know you're not afraid of no microphone.
They're going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you not get close to the mic.
That's right. That's right. Tap it. There you go.
Here I am.
There you go. And then y'all know Chantel.
What up, ITZ? I know you missed me. Thanks. I missed you too. Okay, let's get serious.
I'm actually sick of how many times she's been on this damn show.
Well, stop inviting me. You act like I just be showing up at the studio.
You
like,
do.
I'm gonna be on
this one. I'm like, who invited your ass? Anyway. Hey, so really quick, let's go around. I think everybody watching probably knows you all. You all are internet famous, but I do want them to hear your tale of how you came to be in your co-parenting situation. Tell, I'll start with you.
Oh, you want me to start from the beginning? So,
not when your mama told you don't have sex till you married, and you said fuck that, I'm getting pregnant. I don't need to go that far back.
So, my daughter's father, my baby daddy, I call him that affectionately.
Ron, are you watching? What up, brother?
Yeah, he probably gonna be on here in a second. So I guess knowing that he's watching, you all can kind of tell where we are in our relationship. But we were.
You watch to make sure you don't say nothing stupid about him.
Oh no, he ready. I was talking to him earlier. He was like, "Oh, you just gonna be talking shit all about me the whole time." I said, maybe a little. But we dated a few years ago, like 11 years ago. Had Sally, had my daughter. Got engaged. We were engaged for a few years, broke up. And that led us down the path and journey of effectively co-parenting, which was not effective at first. We had 2 years where it was really painful. But I know we're going to get into, unless you want me to get into that now.
No. We'll dive into it.
We'll get into how we overcame that, but just know it was shitty for the first 2 years.
So we're dating.
Yeah.
Had your daughter.
Yeah.
Got engaged after you had your daughter.
Correct. 6 months after she was born.
6 months after she was born. And that didn't work out for a variety of reasons.
Yes, that is correct.
And then now you're co-parenting. Got you.
Yes.
EY.
Effectively, that's an important word. Effectively co-parent.
Effectively co-parenting.
But there's co-parenting and there's effectively doing so.
And then there's not co-parenting at all. Truth.
Big facts.
EY, let me hear your story, brother.
Yes, sir. So, basically, I've been married and divorced twice, and so I've been in two separate co-parenting situations, one much better than the other. And we'll get into the ins and outs of the two as we go along. But yeah, so I have a now 21-year-old and 19-year-old son and daughter, and then I have a 10-year-old daughter. My son and daughter they primarily grew up with their mom. My youngest, I am the primary for her, so she primarily lives with me. That's it in a nutshell. Well, I'm sure we'll get into things as we go along.
Absolutely. All right. Mitz?
Well, I have two grown daughters. One is 22 and one is 18. My older daughter, I also am in a two-time co-parenting situation. My older daughter's from my high school sweetheart. We dated all through college. Got pregnant with my older daughter right after college. Got engaged, and broke up shortly after. And then I met my now ex-husband, who we went on to have a child together. And he, raised my daughter and my older daughter, been stepfather to her. And we've now been divorced, I'd say about 11 years. So I got two baby daddies. And I say that affectionately as well.
All right. Okay. All right. So I think most folks that are watching, or maybe not, know my story. Married my high school sweetheart. Had two beautiful sons. One is about to be 20. The other's about to be 17. I know the oldest watches. What's up, Dev? The other one, he don't love me, so he don't watch. No. And then he said this is too adult content for him. And then got divorced, remarried, and have my younger two, a daughter who is 10 and a son who is 7. So it's an interesting dynamic. And then my ex-wife got remarried and then had another son. So there's this whole commingling thing happening. And like you said, it takes a little bit to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think we've hit a good stride, and we can get into that in a second. So all right, so we've got not married, never married, one child, one baby daddy.
I'm gonna need you to say it with a little bit more enthusiasm.
Never married with your spinster ass. I'm just laying the plan for that. There's no judgment in these sentences.
I'm just saying, no woe is me over here.
No, I'm just saying. Not married.
Yeah.
Fiance,
Yep.
8-year-old, and then married once, and two damn adults. We're not even gonna get ages up. They both damn near drinking. One is drinking, another one. Right. And then EY said married twice, 2 with the first, 1 with the second. Got you. All right, cool. All right, we got a diverse panel here when it comes to these things. I love it. So I'm gonna start again with you, Sean, since you started off the first one. You said it was rough the first couple of years. Give me your situation. Walk me through.
Why it was rough?
Just let me know. So you're together, you get engaged, you break up, now you're living separately, you're figuring this shit out. Started off, what were the hurdles? What were the initial barriers? What was so fucked up to begin with?
It was really hard for me to tell at the moment, but looking back at it, there were hurt feelings that we broke up, that it was, we had planned on getting married. This was not a mutual decision. It was one person's decision to break off the engagement. I won't say who.
Who?
Anyway. So there was just a lot of hurt feelings there. And when people's feelings are hurt, at least from my experience, I think people try to get the upper hand. They try to figure out a way to get leverage over the other person. So there was just a lot of that, just being honorary for the sake of being honorary. And that includes me, right? Like, I was a new parent, first kid, trying to figure it out, wasn't very flexible at all, wanted things my way, and I was very adamant about it. very adamant. I can seem to be easygoing, but if I want something my way, I am relentless. And her dad was very much similar in that way. So it was just a lot of us trying to one up each other, trying to be the lead, trying to be in command, trying to get our way. And that just created a lot of strife for us. And it wasn't, I don't know, we're going here, but it wasn't until we both, I don't want to sound like real, like she and like I don't want to sound like that, but it really wasn't until we both took a course that we just really got that wasn't going to work. Like trying to outfather him, even though that wasn't my intention, but that's what I was doing, wasn't going to work. All that was going to do was emasculate him. And him trying to run me was never going to work because you can't run me. It's just not going to happen. So we really just came to a decision. And I'll say it was me first that came to the decision that I wanted it to work. I wanted our relationship to work, not just for my daughter, right? Because people always say they want it to work for the kids, but I wanted it to work for me. I'll be totally selfish. I wanted it to work for me. I wanted to be able to have somebody I could partner with on things regarding our daughter. I wanted to be able to make decisions. I wanted it to be easy. I wanted to be able to go to dinner. I wanted to be able to go on vacation if I wanted to. And I realized that I had to figure out what was really important that I needed for Sally and just let everything else go. And let him, if he needed to have something, if it was something I just really, even if it was something I care about, but it wasn't something I'm willing to die on, fine, I'll let you have it. And I think he got to the same place too, where it was just like, I have these 4 things. Like Sally must be doing these things. And you communicate that. And the other person was in the space to get it. That's also really important. That everybody is in an open space to get what the other person needs. And once we got there, things flowed much easier. And I'm not saying that to say we don't still get in our way and still get in our shit. But we are in such practice now that even when we get into screaming arguments, we'll argue for like 20 minutes. And on that 21st minute, somebody is like, look, we got to stop this. We have to talk. And we talk. And we have it out. We say what the issue is, the other person understands, get to the bottom of it, apologize, and move on. And I realize that's not everybody's situation. Everybody doesn't even want that situation, but that's kind of where we are. It's beyond co-parenting. We are genuine friends in raising my daughter, which I just, shut the hell up. I love. And whoever's out there loving it too, I love you back.
They sound all mature and shit.
Right, I'm sorry, all that maturity and shit.
I'm telling you, we have our immature moments. Like I remember, he lives in Wisconsin, and during the pandemic, I took my daughter up there a lot because he's a chef, and it was just impossible for him to get out of where he worked because of where he worked. And we spent half the year there. We got in so many damn arguments, so many. Just us being petty because we were under the same roof.
About her though, or just?
No, just shit with us.
Okay.
It didn't really have nothing to do. I think one did have to do with her. Something about, I'll share this story. So my daughter was 7 at the time, and she's a girl. So she found one of my bras, and she was running around the house like, look at me, daddy, look at me, with the bra on. He flipped his shit.
Really?
Literally. I hope he's in here. Literally lost his mind. He was like, go take that shit off. And I was like, why are you upset with her? She's playing. He was like, this is not funny. And we literally got in an argument about that. And I think that was more to do with that we had just been under the same roof. Mm-hmm. And, it's 2 adults under the same roof, one an adult, but somebody is,
Was y'all fucking?
First of all, we are on a semi-national.
I think that's a fair question.
That's a fair question, though, right?
We talking about co-parenting, not sexing your ex.
That's not
the conversation at hand.
Is that not part of co-parenting occasionally?
I guess if that's the agreement, sure. That's not our agreement.
The lack of a response is a response, by the way.
I just answered the question. You know what? It's time to move on. Eric, EY, what's your situation?
She's like, I feel attacked.
I am attacked, and I'm not going to have it. I'm moving us along like I'm a co-host. EY, what's your situation?
I see. Go ahead, Kendra G. What the hell? Now, EY, what's up? Holla at me.
Okay, So what was the question again?
I know Sean talked for like 15 minutes and shit.
Apparently, are you sexing your exes? That's the question.
Well, that would be an absolutely not.
No, I will just kind of let's dive deeper into just your situation, like how your co-parenting situation is it, and if it's difficult or was difficult or has been difficult, what made it so? How did you get around it? Have you gotten around it? Any of that?
Okay. Well, first of all, one of the reasons that co-parenting is different is, if you could get along, you would probably still be together. So that makes it difficult. Communication is a tough thing, especially when the emotions of hurt feelings, having a relationship end, there's a lot of hurt feelings. So being able to communicate through that is a tough thing. My first situation was a really, really bad one. We dated for a long time before we had our son, and then we got married shortly after that. Probably should not have gotten married, if I'm being honest. We tried to do the right thing, so to speak, since we had a kid. And that just, it was pretty disastrous. And instead of walking away at that time, we ended up having another one, a daughter. And it tried, but it was a lot of back and forth, in and out, in terms of us being together and then separating and then getting back together and separating. That went on for way longer than it should have. And then I don't want to make this show about me denigrating my ex, but made it difficult for me to be in a good co-parenting situation, even to the point where she would just, up and move states in the middle of the night. That happened more than once. And fighting all of that through court gets expensive. And then, there were probably more times than I can count that I was like, man, this ain't worth it. This shit ain't worth it. Like, I'm running around the whole country trying to chase down my kids and just to spend time with them and all of this. And probably too many times to count that I had come to my wit's end. Fortunately for me and for them, that I'm just not built like that. So I even when I wanted to quit, and even my own mother, who is so pro being in your kid's life, she had even gotten to the point where she was like, FDB. And when she got like that,
wow,
you knew it had to be serious. And she even thought that I was tripping when I just wouldn't let go. I just couldn't, those were my kids. So I just couldn't let go. So did all of that for years. And I now that they are 21 and 19, they tell me how much they appreciate the fact that I never gave up on them, never left. They've always known where I was, always kept as much communication as was possible. And, for me, I was not going to allow anyone else to write the narrative about me to my children. They now, as adults, they get to decide if they like me or not, but it's because they know me. It's not because, I was off somewhere and somebody else was telling them about me. They know me personally, so they can decide now whether or not they like me, and fortunately they do. The second situation was much better. We just, she had two children, and then we had a child together. She had two boys who I raised from very, very young ages. And then we had a child together. I still engage with the boys. They still come through. Well, they did. Things have gotten a little rocky lately, so it's a little rockier. But that's none of their fault and none of their business. So I try to keep them out of it. Her and I are now doing the co-parenting class that Chantel talked about. And then there was a lot of things that I've learned through that process that allows me to really just keep the focus on my children, and not, or on our child and the boys. So the children, and not be so, worried about how I feel about her or how she feels about me. It's hard because our personalities don't mesh that well, to put it nicely. So that makes it difficult, and it's difficult to communicate. But we get through it for the sake of the child. For a while, it was really, really good. Like, they would all come over. Her and the boys would come over, spend time. We'd barbecue, all of that kind of stuff. Now, not so much that anymore. But as far as us being able to communicate about our daughter, and we strictly keep it to that now, we're able to do that. So that's my situation in a nutshell.
Man, hey, first let me say, brother, that's what's up. A lot of people, we have a lot of these silly ass social media conversations about how men aren't doing what they're supposed to do to be in their child's lives, and all these deadbeat dads. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, because of course it does. But we don't hear enough of that. That cats are fighting and want to be, and are making themselves available to be in their kids' life, and more than that, are like making themselves accessible despite the odds stacked against them, despite a co-parent that's preventing you or weaponizing the kids. It's man, this is great to hear that, and I knew this about you, but this is great to hear that brothers like you out there doing what they're supposed to do, and going above and beyond in some cases for their kids, and that's amazing shit. And in this case, kids that aren't even technically yours biologically. So that's what's up, brother. Kudos to that first and foremost. Secondly, though, it's interesting. I guess I should have known this, even though I didn't know this, that there are classes out there. But I mean, I guess there's classes about everything. So but the fact that there are classes out here for this is amazing. Like, and Mitz, I'm gonna get you in a sec, but I do want to touch on this a little bit with both of you guys. A quick divergent, you, EY, and Sean. Like, what happens in these classes? What kind of conversations are had?
You want to?
Oh, wait, have you done this too, Mitz?
Well, we did. We had to go through mediation.
Okay.
And it was through the courts, but it was meeting with an individual to kind of square away what our goals were for our relationship with each other, with the child.
Okay.
Talking all about, what is your life like, and what makes it difficult for you guys to come together and do what you need to do for her. And talk about the things that were causing difficulty for us to get along. Really trying to square away what we can do for each other to facilitate being able to, be there for each other and be there for, my daughter. So we had to, it was kind of like counseling and therapy. It was a lot of just talking out the issues that we were having that led us to where we were, and the issues that were still angering us with each other, and trying to figure out just practical things that we could do to not get to those places, and learning consideration for each other, even though we were not in a relationship anymore, but just really practical things, even down to like scheduling and time, and very specific things. So I think that made all of the difference.
Interesting. Similar.
Not quite.
Okay.
Because they weren't co-parenting classes. They were actually just like individual self-evaluation, I guess, to a degree. Because I was looking at my whole life. He was just one component I was looking at. I took the class first, and I was doing a lot of self-evaluation about why I was doing things I was doing that didn't work in my life, how I wanted to be different, what it would take for me to be different, so I could get a lot of things out of my way. Our bad relationship was just one of them, and he ended up taking it a few months after I did, because he just saw a big change in me and how I was in relationship with him, and how I spoke to him, and how I started speaking to people in general. So he decided to take it, and what we got out of that allowed us to be able to move that forward. So it wasn't co-parenting classes; they were just about getting ourselves together.
Gotcha. EY.
So ours is we because we were going through it through kind of the course situation through the pandemic. It was an online class. But basically it was, just watching a series of videos, and a lot of them had scenarios of different situations that you actually find yourselves in, and just kind of talking through how to best come to some type of resolution through them. One of the things that was really, I guess, helpful through that is the videos had judges speaking from a judge's perspective, and what how the courts want to see parents interacting with each other. And it just, it got to the point where you start looking at yourself and like, I really start seeing where I was going wrong in communication, because a lot of times you just want to blame the other person, right? And just, man, that chick is crazy and she be tripping, right? But then I had to realize that sometimes it's because I say things to push certain buttons. So it allowed me to see myself and try not to, if I know I'm going to get a certain reaction if I say or do this, then why don't I try not to do that? And then, that just goes a long way. And that was kind of, so my first marriage, let me back up a little bit. And I appreciate your words, brother, but I honestly have always never wished to have thank you for doing what I was supposed to do. I didn't think I deserved any props for doing what the hell I was supposed to do, right? Because those are my kids too. But anyway, let me back up a bit. And the reason that our relationship broke up in the first place was because, and also going in line with the things that I've learned through this journey, is that I was extremely immature, even though I was 27 when I had my first child and thought I was emotionally mature. It really brought out a lot of that immaturity. Now, she had her flaws too, don't get me wrong, but I could have handled some of those situations just better had I been a little bit more mature and kind of, I was ready for fatherhood. I don't think I was ready for marriage. And so she, that became a very, very sore issue through the years, or at least during the breakup time. Right. And so, so as far as the classes, they were online. I thought they were really helpful, man. I really, anybody that's in a co-parenting situation, I think can gain something by those different classes and just getting to see and hear different people talk about their situations, because it allows you to see yourself. And you can also see the other person, but you can see some of their perspective a little bit without you being emotionally invested.
Where did you find all these mature people at? Oh my God.
I only hang out with the best of the best. What's wrong with you?
God.
I'm not always mature, but I'm damn near.
I'm just saying, all these grown-ups in the room.
Hey, I should have got a 25-year-old to come in here.
Where's my baby mama ain't shit. My baby daddy ain't. Where they at?
Hey, you have to get me off camera and after a couple of things. I don't even know now, but
I respect that.
I'm not gonna do them like that in public.
Don't talk shit about them in public. I respect that.
Like Eric's classes sound like my AA classes. You see? Mitz, swinging to you. Break it down.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I know I got two baby daddies, but I would not trade my situation for anyone's, because I am quite happy with my situation. We get along great. They have always wanted to be a very big part of their daughters' lives. Where it was difficult was with my first daughter's father. What was really difficult was time and at that time he was in dental school and I was getting my master's degree, and we were both working professionals, and we were very busy, and so a lot of the responsibility of her day-to-day care fell on me. And so I feel like the relationship was over, and definitely there were hurt feelings about that, but we managed to move past that, because he really wanted all of his time with her, but he was so inconsiderate with everybody else's time, including, especially mine. So I was very adamant of the fact that I wanted him to be a part of her life and have all the time that he wanted with her and just really be able to be there and be a father. But he was always blowing me off and showing up late, and
he was nowhere to be found.
I'm in class because I planned my classes around the evenings that he was going to be with her. So I'm in class till 9 p.m. I get home and I have my, at this time, answering machines. My babysitter is like, she's still here. It's 7:30. It's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. And this is twice that he just, I forgot it's my, like, how do you forget you have a whole child waiting for you to pick her up? Wow. There was no possible way in my mind I could ever forget that there is a child waiting for me to get them. So, and then once I got married and I got pregnant with my second daughter, it became even more difficult because I'm pregnant and I'm working and I'm still doing my master's and I have a house and all these other responsibilities.
And a husband.
And a husband, him too.
We a whole other kid in this motherfucker.
Exactly. So I just couldn't take it anymore to the point where it's like, he's showing up 3 hours late or just, I'm not even going to come today and so one other thing that I always have thought about, even with my ex-husband, is I would rather not go the court route. I would rather we work it out amongst ourselves and figure out what we want to do with our children and not get other people involved. And I was really trying to avoid that. So my daughter was probably like 4 before I finally had enough and was like, and at this point, he didn't have like child support payments like that. He didn't have any of that stuff. But when I set boundaries for my time, all of a sudden he wanted to get a lawyer and, I have rights as a father. Okay, well, go get them. And that's when he had to enter in a child support agreement and a custody agreement. And I'm like, if I can't get you to act right with my time, the court will. So that's how we ended up in mediation. And, I would have loved to have handled it amongst ourselves, but it was impossible because he didn't have respect for my time. He didn't have respect for other people's time. It had to be the court and the mediator to really be like, okay, but you can't show up 3 hours late to pick up your child. You can't just like not show up and not call or not have a reason. You can't just pick her up and then take her to your mother's house every week. Like all of those things, we had to air that out in front of, an objective party. And all of that came out, I'm busy with this life and you're busy with this life. So that was really helpful. And ever since that time, we've never had to get the court involved again. It was just something that I really had to establish what the boundaries were and what we were going to do in that regard. The only other time it got difficult to co-parent with him was, of course, I was married now and I'm having another child. And my ex-husband was not really interested in me having a close relationship with my ex. He was okay with the picking up and the dropping off and, communicating about the child. But my ex, we had been friends since we were kids, and to me that was kind of like family. And that's what I wanted to feel like. We're raising kids together. I want us to feel comfortable. Our families know each other. And my ex-husband wasn't having it. He's like, no, pick up, drop off, goodbye, hello, goodbye. There is no extra friendliness here. So it was a little bit tense for a little while, and we definitely were not as close as we are today. But there was never any issues or problems. There were no arguments. There were no bad feelings.
Well, y'all still fucking though.
No.
Okay, I'm just double checking. All right.
Hey,
Man, I was like,
everybody's question.
Well, maybe your husband knew some shit.
No.
Okay.
No, not for neither of them.
Okay.
Once I'm gone, I'm gone. I don't go back.
I got you.
Yeah. So
I had to ask though.
Yeah. And with my ex-husband, he was there even after we got divorced. He was still spending time with my older daughter and her sister together because my older daughter was very young when her father and I separated. She was about 1.5 years. So when he came into my life, she was still a baby. Mm-hmm. And we were together 11 years. So he raised her with me. Mm-hmm. He was a big part of her life. So for at least 5 years after we divorced, he would still spend time with both girls together and, try to just keep that relationship together. So, and he's always, he and I actually have shared our daughter 50-50 since we've been divorced. So I've been, like I said, I'm not trading my situation for anyone because it's been wonderful that they want to be such an active part of their daughter's lives. And, they've gotten along with me and understood. We've all gone through things over the years, and I think they've tried to be there for me and vice versa. So we've definitely gotten into some, disagreements about how we feel about certain things going on with the kids. And, my ex-husband, I can't even talk to him. He'll just cut me off and just ignore me when he doesn't want to hear it. So, but eventually we'll pick back up and, There hasn't been a lot of arguing though. But it was really tough in the beginning, just trying to balance the two different relationships and, having to get somebody to like show up and be where they're supposed to be and do what they're supposed to do and, not get the legal system involved and all that. So.
I'm sorry. That was very similar to my situation with my second ex-wife because I had primary custody and it was just not showing up on time, not being where she was supposed to be when she was supposed to be there, and that's ended up the reason that we ended up having to do the legal thing as well. So I can definitely relate to that.
Well, at least y'all didn't have to deal with no crackhead. My ex-wife is a crackhead. No,
you just needed some kind of bullshit. All these mature people.
She sold my TV. No, all right, no, all right, no.
I did have clothes thrown, a suitcase of clothes thrown out on the highway before, but that's
Damn, what'd you do?
Wait, while you were driving, or?
Well, no. I think she tried to throw me on the highway while she was driving. I was, about to move back, and it's really insignificant to the whole story we're telling, but that was part of one of the situations.
Sounds like a good ass story. We're gonna have a drink and talk.
Yeah.
I just want to know what he did.
He didn't do nothing. That woman crazy. That's what happened.
It wasn't his fault.
That's right. It wasn't his fault. Let me ask this. I want to ask the lady something in particular, though, because you have daughters. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's different, more difficult, perhaps? Are you a little bit more protective? Now, usually they say women are more protective of their men, but of the other boys. But having daughters, do you think that swayed the balance of the relationship or the co-parenting in any way, shape, or form?
Not for me. My ex-husband, she's his only child. So he doesn't have a son. He doesn't have any other children. And I think he's really invested in the relationship that he has with her. Mm-hmm. I will say this. We recently had it out because, she was having some difficulty in school. And the way that he was dealing with her was not the way that I deal with her or that I thought we were dealing with her. He started to, say some things to her. He got really upset with her, and he started to say some things to her that I'm like, why are you talking to her like that, And so my response was like, why would you talk to her like that and make her feel like that's how a man should be talking to her? Or make her feel like it's okay for a man to deal with her that way. And that just came about. She just turned 18. This is her senior year. With COVID, all of these kids are losing their mind in school and having a really difficult time getting through. And so I know him, and I know what he was trying to do was to I don't agree with it at all, but just tell her she's going to fail in hopes of, lighting a fire under her ass.
Some backward motivation.
Yeah, but, she took it really hard. And the way he said it was so harsh and really basically telling her you're a failure. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of contact with each other anymore. So it was tough to have to, have that conversation with him and talk to him about the way he was intervene on something that I really have never had to do until now. So I'm going to be protective, but it would have been the same way if he would have been my son, if it would have been my son, It's just, and I think that they're very aware of the fact that, they have girls. They're not boys. And thankfully, I would like to think, and I feel like they're as fair with them as they would be if they did have boys.
Okay. Son?
Yes, but not because she's a girl. More so because my dad was absentee. So I have a lot of, obviously, daddy issues. But I remember all of that. I remember what it's like to, not be able to call my dad or not have my dad there or, seeing him very sporadically when he felt like showing up. So I have a lot of lessons from that. And I'm protective of making sure she doesn't go through that. with her dad. I'll share this story. He'll probably gonna be mad I'm gonna share it, but that's okay. I'll fight with him about it later. So a few years ago, baby daddy had a girlfriend. My problem with his girlfriend, I thought it was great. I encouraged him to date her. Fine. Couple of months into it.
I don't believe you.
You don't have to. He'll tell you. It's fine.
Your whole tone was off. But go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure. But anywho,
go ahead.
So
trying to start stuff.
my daughter, she'll call him at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning if she's awake, if she just feels like it. But this was when she was first starting to do it. And she called at like 6:30 one morning, and I guess his girlfriend was there. The next day I get a phone call from him, and he was like, I'm gonna need you to tell Sally she can't call me that early anymore. I was like, what? What do you mean she can't call you that early anymore? You're her dad. She should be able to call you at 2 o'clock in the morning if she feels like it.
Right.
And he was like, well, it's just disrespectful.
Disrespectful
to
to
who? Exactly. So stuff like that I am hyper sensitive to, making sure she does not have to feel any of that. And I didn't share that with her because I was like, she doesn't need to know that. And I told him, you don't ever tell her that. You are her dad. She needs to be able to count on you whenever she needs to. If it's for something small or something massive, if she needs you to buy her house, she needs to be able to know that she can come to you for that.
That broad can kick rocks talking that.
And I don't have any concrete proof it was the girlfriend, but
It was her. Who the fuck else would it have been?
I'm just saying, wasn't no concrete proof. That was my belief. But I'm very hypersensitive to that. I'm always telling him, like, look, it's important that you date your daughter, which for years he was like, I'm not dating my daughter. That's not my girlfriend. I got that. But you are preparing her for whoever she's going to date, whoever she's going to marry. And if you a piece of shit, she going to walk in with a piece of shit. You need to be the best you could ever be. And she going to walk in with somebody who's very similar to you.
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
Good, absolutely agree with that. The reason I ask this question is, so me and my ex have a great relationship, great co-parenting relationship. We've gotten to some arguments earlier on. Now it's just really I'm I shouldn't even say this shit out loud, but I'm scared of her. But so no, not scared of her like I'm scared of her, but like we have a great thing, and even occasionally when I think she's a little bit out of bounds, I kind of take it because I don't want to make it a bad thing, and I don't want to have to start talking about courts. And now my kids are pretty much older, but you know, a few years ago, my wife, hey baby, if you're watching, she'd be like, the fuck, and I'd be like, shut the fuck up. It's fine, we'll figure that shit out. But I asked that because the biggest argument we ever got in was when we first broke up, and I got two boys, and I said at a certain age, they're gonna have to come live with me.
I've heard a couple of dads say that.
Yeah, at 12, 13, maybe 8th grade, freshman in high school, they need me to be in. I mean, not that I'm not I'm talking about every day, yeah, because they're turning a corner and they're gonna need me. So then she got remarried and love their stepfather, awesome dude. Couldn't have asked for a better dude to be in their lives than this guy. So no disrespect whatsoever. But when it came about that time, she was like, and I don't think she meant it this way, but she was like, oh, well, I mean, L's here, so it's good. And I'm like, I'll choke you out. Like, like he's awesome. You're right. He's there, and I'm glad he's there, and he's an amazing dude. But father, yeah, right? But she's like, well, I mean, I do with all the school. I was like, yes, because they're there. I can handle that as well. I just don't have the opportunity as often because I don't have them as often, right?
But I think, and I agree with you because I've heard a lot of my male friends say that, but it takes a lot for a mom to like, even when the kid is like 18, 20, 22.
To let it go.
To let it go.
I get that. But the reason I asked this particular question, and I'm going to come back to you, EY, was because I felt a certain way because they were young men, about to be young men. And so if me and my wife would, God forbid, ever break up, and I would probably never be seeking for my daughter to live with me because I think she's going to need a mom probably more than me. And in my head, my sons need me at a certain age probably more than they need you. And I understand it's hard to let go, but that's that sacrifice you got to make. So what it really came to me was saying, oh, you just don't trust my ass. Because if it was a different dude, maybe you would feel differently now.
Yeah, make it all about you, sir.
Yes, goddamn right. It's all about you. I internalized it. I own it. She said it wasn't that, but I got to feel it's partially that.
No.
Well, you know what? I'm going to address that because my older daughter, when she started high school, and this was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And I mean, when I tell you I cried for months before and I cried for months after, but she wanted to go live with her dad. And mind you, he was remarried. His wife is wonderful. I mean, we have a lot of love for each other. She's a great woman. She had been in my daughter's life since she was 3 years old. So she had a stepdad and a stepmom from when she was, a little girl. And I couldn't say no. Her dad lives in Georgia. So for the first, I think, 2 years he moved to Georgia, he would fly in every other weekend without missing a single weekend to pick her up, spend time with her, be with her on vacations. He'd take her on vacations. He'd spend every waking moment with her when, he had to leave for his wife to finish up school. And when it came that time and she told me she wanted to go live over there, immediately my pride kicked in. And that motherly instinct, but she's my baby and I can't let her go and I'm her mother and there's no way I can, let this happen. But I went ahead and I did it. And because of the knowledge that I knew she was going to be great over there. She had great support system. Her stepmother is wonderful. Her father is wonderful. They were giving her a really great life. And I trusted them. Like I trusted both of them heavily. But I tell you, it just was heartbreak. I think of it now and I still want to cry. Like, oh my God, like, how did I ever get through that time, But I think sometimes as women, we have to be willing, whether it's a boy or a girl, to have trust in that other parent, the father of our children. And if they've demonstrated to us they're a wonderful parent like we are, if they have the same interests for our children and have always done those same things and we get along great and we have a good relationship and our kids love them and want to be with them, we have to let go sometimes. We have to back up and let go and trust the other person, to have our children's best interests, especially dads. Because I've always wanted my daughters to have a really close relationship with their dad. I grew up with a stepdad, and I have my real dad. I haven't been as close to my real dad as my stepdad, but I love my stepdad. I consider him to be my real father. And he's always been there through my life. I always say it takes a special man to raise someone else's child. So, I have faith in her. I had faith in her stepmother. And, he had faith in my husband to be around my daughter and be a role model and a supporting father. So sometimes you got to set aside your pride and, let that other parent take charge.
I'm gonna come back to you. First of all, Jamal.
Yeah, that's right. Get him, Jamal.
Jamal asked in the chat just saying random shit.
Here we go.
I didn't say only my boys would need me, Jamal. Don't start that shit.
That's right. Call out that toxic masculinity. Yes.
I did not say that. I said that my boys, as growing into young men, might need me more, and my daughter might need her mother more at a certain age, because only she can teach her to be a woman, and only I can teach my boys to be men. That's what I meant, Jamal. You kiss my ass. I know what you're trying to do. EY, you got both. You got boys and girls. Where do you land on this?
Yeah, so let's go with the youngest one who lives with me. That decision actually was made. We made that together, and it was because I've been working from home for so many years. We didn't want to pay for daycare. Plus, when we split up, she had the two boys, and I just knew that financially, it just made more sense for my daughter to come and live with me. And I've always applauded her for making that I thought that was an extremely mature decision for her to make. But we talked about that, discussed that, and came to that decision together. And even throughout that, I've always felt that it was very important for her to have a relationship with her mom. And that's, why the doors were so open initially. But how do I feel about like their mothers moving on and it's tough, man, because I'm the type of parent that in my parenting, I feel like these things are zero fail propositions. There is no room for error here. when my children are out of my sight, there is no room for error. There is no do-over. There is no, so I'm probably a little more maniacal maybe than even makes sense sometimes. And I realized that about myself. In fact, my 19-year-old had to go to work just a couple of towns over yesterday and needed to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. She has a car, but I'm up in the morning taking her to work because I'm just all day long, like the day before, like I can't let her drive over there. It was for a training. So it was a one-time thing. And I'm like, I can't, it's just zero fail proposition. So, those types of things, definitely more with my daughters than my son. And I guess if somebody's going to call me toxic or toxically masculine for that, however that's supposed to go, then I'll accept that. But I treat all of my children fairly, but I treat them differently. I treat my boys differently than I treat my girls, and I'm openly admitting that. And whatever comes with that, I can take it. There's just I do probably give my son a little more freedom and give my daughters a little more love, if that makes sense.
No,
So
absolutely.
Jamal is stupid.
I know you would understand if nobody else did.
No.
So when my first wife, she remarried, I'm very much like always kind of, I wanted to keep eyes on the guy because I didn't know him. I had never met him. In fact, even to this day, I've only met him once. And then so I've always like, I'm trying to speak around this without really saying everything, right? But yeah, that is it was a very uncomfortable situation to me, knowing that my 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old daughter was going to be living with the man that I had never met.
Yeah.
That was extremely uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
With my daughter now, it's a little bit easier. Her mom has dated a guy since me, and that didn't work out. But I see her every day, so we have a much different communication. I pay close attention to how she is when she comes back versus how she left. But yeah, it's a very uncomfortable thing for me to send either one of my kids with people that I don't know, but definitely someone who could even potentially do them harm. And it was good to hear Melissa say that she trusts the person she deals with, not only the husband, but also the relationship, his wife now, because I don't know that I necessarily trust my exes like that to make the best decision.
I will say, when the girls were little and I was remarried, when they were little, like they didn't stay with anyone but me. So even just like it always was on me to provide most of the, childcare for them and be with them and take them places and do things with them when they were little. Even though I was married and my ex-husband was with me since my daughter was a baby, it took many years for me to feel comfortable even, leaving the smaller baby and leaving him alone with them and going and doing other things. Like that takes a lot of time to build that trust and understand and see like the actual relationship. And that's fair because, you have to be vigilant. You have to pay attention to who your kids are around and, who has access to them. So I get why you would, and your ex and dating people and bringing them around the kids and, having this new person around your kids. To this day, it's taken a very long time for my daughters to even meet anyone that I've dated. It takes...
Yeah, it takes a while.
And especially the girls, right? Because we all acknowledge the fact that boys are physically abused, but the numbers are there that it happens more often to women, to girls. So that is just a scary thing for a dad to send his daughter with a strange man. And and I know my exes, and just in knowing them specifically, I just, that makes me a little more uncomfortable, because I'm not quite sure how diligent they are in paying attention to that kind of stuff. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I'll tell you what. Here's what's interesting, and here's where I, in all manhood, fell in love with my my wife's husband. So he keeps a gun in the house, right? A lot of people do. They live on 47th. I get it. And usually keeps it in the lockbox, and whatever the case may be. But for whatever reason, one day he put it in they were having some work done on the house, so he was keeping it in case one of the workers came in the crib, because they had a key, so they come in the house while they were at work. And he kept the piece in his side dresser, in case one of them fools decide they want to come in at night, whatever. But usually he would keep it in his lockbox. But for whatever reason, this day he forgot to put it away, whatever. And one of my sons got a hold of it. Nothing happens. All good. I literally would not have ever had to have known about it. I'm sure neither one of them would have mentioned it, because nothing, they had a talk about guns and not touching the gun or whatever. But 4 days later, the kids might not even thought about it again. They might have mentioned it. They might not have. Mm-hmm. He calls me, like, as soon as it happens, and after they had a conversation, and he says, "Hey, I just had to let you know." First, he said, I'm so sorry that I put your sons in harm's way with my negligence. And I just had to let you know what happened. And my man is almost in tears behind the shit, because I know how much he loves them and how much he respects me. And I'm like, and what, when he first tells me, I'm like I'm here at first. But then people, they fuck up. I know he didn't mean, anything by, and you just, sometimes you do shit and it slips your mind or whatever. Yeah. And the fact that he approached me as a man and was humble enough, to say, my bad, I apologize. It was so fucked up behind it. I couldn't do shit but respect it. And I said, and this is the type of dude that I want around my shorties, because this is a man right here. This is a man standing in front of me that can own up to his shit. When he really didn't, he really didn't have to, because it might not have ever come up again. But anyway, I say that to say these relationships are built over time and over trust and over incidents, and sometimes fucked up incidents, and then you realize what they're really made of as people, whether that be your ex, whether that be your ex's current, your ex's ex, whatever, whatever that shit, however that shit breaks down. And to speak to what you're saying, these things aren't just developed because people are trustworthy as people. I don't trust people in general, because people are fucked up. You have to build that trust up, particularly when it comes to my kids. So, being hyper vigilant, I'll never blame anybody for that, because that's your job as a parent.
Yeah.
Simply put. All right, y'all, we got a little more time here. I want to ask this. You don't have to be super honest, but I love the honesty.
That's why you brought us here,
That's
right?
why, yeah. What's the biggest issue? Let me ask you this. No, let's get off ourselves for a hot second. We've been very hyper selective about telling our stories, and I appreciate that. But let's speak in some generalities real fast. Who's the worst to deal with in these situations, co-parenting situations, men or women? Sean.
Okay, so
hyper general.
I don't
say it.
I don't have a real answer, right? Because I am the only person I know that has a co-parenting. I won't even say effective. A co-parenting relationship with the person that they have kids with. I see a lot of dysfunction, and I see dysfunction on both sides, to be quite frank. Now, I am self-aware enough that when people are telling me stuff, I realize that they're leaving things out that make things happen. It's
their side of the story.
Right. So I hear toxicity from both sides. I hear toxicity
Wait, hold on, pause.
from the women.
Pause, real fast. Hold on. I just want to be very clear about something. So you're telling me that of everyone else in the world that you know that has kids in a relationship,
outside of you, No, everybody else has some dysfunction.
Everybody else is fucked up, is what you're telling me.
Dysfunction, yeah, on some level, shape, or form.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's more messed up. One or two things.
Go ahead, break it down.
And it's not him or her.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's whoever is mad about their money getting taken.
That's true.
And
That
whoever.
sounded a lot more like him. I'm just gonna put
Well,
that out
no,
there.
because if you take care of your kid and he don't give you a dime, then your money's being
He's
taken.
not paying
okay, fair enough,
child support.
fair enough,
He ain't
fair
doing
enough.
nothing, he
So,
ain't
yeah.
Fair
doing.
enough. Fair
So
enough.
it's
Fair
not
enough.
always him.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Or the one who can't get over they ain't fucking you.
That they ain't around.
That's true.
I was waiting on that.
I'm just saying.
and I'll share
it could
this-
be man or a woman. It's just whoever's getting their money taken or doesn't feel like the other is contributing or the one that can't have you no more.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell some truth right now, right? I'm going to share my friend's story without his name. I'll just share his story. If he get mad, I'll fight with him later.
John. I don't know. I don't know.
I was at a recent event at my friend's house. Now, I've been friends with this dude since I was technically since I was 20, but we didn't become friends until I was 26. I'm at his son's
So he was trying
event.
to fuck between 20 and 26 is what you're saying.
Anyway.
Okay.
He has a lovely girlfriend. They have a beautiful daughter. Daughter same age as my daughter. I go to this event for his son. The son's mother is there. I have never met the mother of this kid, and neither has his girlfriend until that day. That was the craziest thing I've ever heard of.
Wait, I'm so confused. Hold on. How long has he been with this with the
Their
girlfriend?
daughter is 8.
With the girlfriend.
Uh-huh. Going on 9. So they've been together 10 years. His son is 18.
Wow.
And she had never, nor have I, as somebody who's his friend, have never met the mother of his son until that day.
Well, I can see why you might not have ever met her.
How? I'm his friend. Why would I have never
Where
met
would you
her?
have met her at?
A birthday party, because he's had them. A
Oh,
barbecue,
yeah,
because he's had them too.
enough.
Like a football, a game. I was just
I mean, a birthday party. Yeah. Barbecue maybe.
a
but a birthday
game. He
party.
plays sports. A game. But this is the kind of, that's really to me a level of toxic. That's so toxic. Like, why would, even just leave me out of it, right? Why would the woman who's in the house with the boy regularly, like taking him and carting him places, have never met his mother?
No, that's insane.
crazy.
There's no way in hell I would let that happen.
Wild. That's wild.
But
If you could control it, of course.
that's the kind of toxicity I see in some of the other relationships. There's just like stuff that just makes literally no sense.
And they all live in the same city.
Yes.
Like
They
if you
on
live in
the
different
same
cities,
side of
maybe.
town. They all live on the south side.
EY, you said this earlier that you had never met, or you've only met once, your ex's, was it husband or boyfriend?
Husband. Yeah,
Husband.
and that was actually at my son's graduation party from high school. He just graduated college.
Crazy.
And I met him at his high school graduation, and they had been married by then for, I don't know, 6 years or something.
And they live in a different city, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they live in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Then I was gonna say it.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but
They're
didn't
not
he
in the
fly
same-
down there? I mean,
Yeah,
that still
yeah,
seems
yeah.
strange to me that you fly there to see your kid and it wouldn't have occurred to say, okay, come in the house, hi, like something.
That's true. Don't he pick him up?
Yeah, I just...
Yeah. We I mean, all of that, right? And when he would either just never be around. But okay, so now I'm getting into my personal shit a little bit deeper. To be honest, that kind of is what led to my trust issue with him. I hesitated to use a past tense because I still don't trust it again.
Real spit.
But it's quite simply, my kids live in your house and you've never made a move to meet me. I've tried. I've been there, right? And you live there with my children. How is it that you've never wanted to know anything about me? Nothing. And then, there's a few more things that I won't get into with them personally that makes me look at him like, But like, you ain't never just wanted to say, hey man, your son is tripping and I'm finna, handle that or
Bruh. Yeah.
I would have questions.
Yeah.
For sure.
Or just, I want you to know what I look like.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Want you to know what I look like. I'm spending time around your
Yeah,
kid, and I want to know what you look like. I want you to know what I look like. Here's my phone number. We can,
Matt, just respect.
just
and you know damn
baseline.
well-
Yes.
he know damn well his wife is toxic. So then why wouldn't you reach out? Because I tried, and it was always met with something else or another.
Yeah,
and
he
so,
probably just as fucked up, unfortunately.
He toxic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't pinpoint it on one gender. I know you wanted some fuck shit.
No, I was just kicking that shit off.
But I just
I don't necessarily think it's a gender thing either. I think Melissa hit it right on the nail. Whoever feels most wrong, I think ends up being the most toxic.
Yeah. That's unfortunate too, because you just see so many situations where if one or the other could get past whatever it is they're upset with the other parent about, and we all know that it's usually the child that ends up suffering in those situations and has to see or hear things that they don't need to be involved in, or that shouldn't even be happening. And that's just the biggest thing to try to get across to people, when they're dealing with co-parenting. It's like you said in the beginning, you really have to be reflective of yourself, and try to figure out, you only have free will over yourself. You can't control what the other person wants to do or is doing. And, sometimes we really need to set aside our own ego and pride and, bad habits, and just figure out what we can do to make it easier for our children, despite what we can or can't do to influence what the other person does.
Yeah.
And, even with that, sometimes it doesn't help, because the other person is dead set on continuing on with their nonsense or not really thinking about those types of things.
It's just fucked up when people drag the kids in the middle of that bullshit, right? Like, you got your issue with me with it, but that, what's little Johnny got to do with that? Like, come on, stop.
Yeah.
And even in the best co-parenting relationship, because I can say there have been times that one of us have used Sally to make the other one upset. It's happened. And then we just have to have a conversation about it later. Human beings are human beings.
Give me an example.
They're going to seem really petty, but they really
Of course it's just petty. You just
so
did. Of course it's petty.
So me and my baby daddy, I don't even remember what we were fighting about. I really honestly don't. This was years after we broke up. And he was coming to pick Sally up to take her to do something. And he was sitting in the car. Like, because at my house, you have to actually go out in the gate and open it because it locks from the outside. So I'm standing in the vestibule waiting for him to get out the car and come to the gate so I can walk her out and hand him to her. He just sitting in the car, just sitting there. And I call him on his cell phone, like, are you going to come to the gate and get Sally? He was like, no, you can just have her walk to the car. I said, You need to come get your daughter, grab her hand, walk her to your car, open the door, sit her in there, and then you can drive away. I'm not teaching her that at 5 years old. Absolutely not.
What you saying? He can't just honk up like, bring your ass out here?
No.
Not at 5.
Not ever. I don't care if she's 22. No. But he was trying to make me mad for something we were already fighting about. But that's the kind of shit people do to get under people's skin.
Oh, that's minor, though.
I said it was petty. I started.
No, petty and minor are two different things.
No, that's petty. That was him trying to be petty to get under my skin.
Right.
And I'm just not the motherfucker to roll with that.
So all right, so and to kind of wrap this up and Mitch kind of set the table for this, what other ways people can, you might not be able to avoid it, but mitigate some of these situations? So personally, in terms, don't put it on anybody else. How do you work around these, not you personally, but how do you how can people work around these issues, these relationships, to make them be as smooth as they possibly can be?
That's too complex of an answer to be trying to wrap up in 13 minutes. Here's what I will say.
We got 13 minutes. We got time.
At the top, if you already in it, I would have to hear what's going on. But at the top, I think it's very important for you to identify how you want the relationship to be. Like, and I don't mean like you want him to do this. You want to, when I decided I wanted to have this co-parent relationship, I set a baseline. I said, I want it to look like this. I wanted us to be like this. I wanted us to be friends. I wanted us to be able to sit and have dinner. I wanted us to go on vacation if we wanted to. I wanted him to be able to come to my house and pick her up whenever he felt like it, with no rules and no boundaries. And once I understood what I wanted, I could build what it looked like from there. And it also required me to get out, as Mel has said, get out of my own way. Like, be able to identify when I was being shitty, when I was doing something that wasn't helping the situation. That took a lot. It just took a whole lot for me to get there, if I'm being fully transparent. But you have to know what kind of relationship you want with that co-parent. And I think a lot of people don't go into it understanding what kind of relationship they want. I think people just kind of walk in and let the chips fall where they may, and then try to react to that versus going in with a plan.
Well, you know,
Or at least I identified some goals.
No, I agree with that. But that's because they walked.
That's because they walked in a relationship with no.
They walked in the relationship not knowing what the fuck they wanted. And,
Absolutely.
And having these awful ass decisions in who they have kids with. So that's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely. And even with the shitty people, you still have to be able to say, everybody can't have sunshines and rainbows in their relationships. Fine. At least have the baseline like, look, I want to be able to call him when there are events. I want to be able to, you know, if I need $20, I can call him. Like, set whatever small expectation you can have with that person within reason about who they are at that time.
And you know what? Can I say something else too?
Absolutely.
To piggyback off of that, it also becomes very difficult when the other parent gets involved with someone else.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like, in particular, this is something that I think about, you know, whenever I get involved or if I've gotten in a relationship, I need the person that I'm getting involved in to understand the relationship that I have with my daughter's father.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty articulate about that from the beginning, that we're close, we have a good relationship, we're like family to each other, we're not distant from each other. We do, when, you know, my older daughter's father's in town, we'll all have family dinner together. You know, I still keep in very close contact with her grandparents and his family. He still reaches out to my family. Like, we have that connection. So if you're coming into this space, there is no room for this, oh, why are you talking to your ex like that? And why is your ex calling you or texting you? Or because this is what we have built here. And so if you're coming into this, you have to be willing to accept, like, now mind you, he's not texting me at 3 a.m. and there is no back and forth, and there aren't those feelings anymore. There isn't that relationship. It's a genuine, we are raising children together, and we're trying to show them a family still.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of problems happen when people get involved with someone else, and then the expectations of that partner, like how you were saying that that your daughter couldn't call him at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we know who really had an issue with your
I
daughter
presume,
calling him.
I don't know, but I presume.
I mean,
That trick ass bitch.
but you know, if you're having people come into this relationship, it has to be pretty clear where that relationship stands and where you're trying to go with it too.
Yeah.
You know,
And I prefer that. If I'm walking into a relationship with somebody that has kids, I'd rather the relationship be healthy and communicative and all that good stuff.
There are a lot of people who don't.
I don't want to deal with your baby daddy drama.
And
But
that's why
people
I
like
say
it.
I don't want to have to fight that motherfucker. I got no.
But that's why I say I love my situation, because I have friends who have children with one man and they can't stand each other and they can't get along and they can't make it work, you know. And it's like, and here, you know, I've managed with 2 men to actually like make it work, and we're good to each other, and we're raising these kids, and you know, there's that respect there. So anybody that comes into my life has to understand, you know, it's taken time to build that, and that's what's most important to me.
She's
for my children.
absolute. Because we've talked about this when baby daddy had his girlfriend. That was the core issue with them, is that she just could not reconcile our relationship. She just did not get it. Like, I went to visit. I took Sally up there for a weekend so that we could all have lunch. And she was like, you all can't be frolicking around Wisconsin. It's like, frolicking? We went to lunch. What are you talking
Right.
about?
Hey, bring your ass there. Nobody.
That's what I said. So it's just, you have to have, whoever you bring into this party has to be on board with what things look like.
No doubt.
They're just going to create just such turmoil.
EY, jump back in there. Hold on. Let me get EY back in there real quick.
No, they absolutely right. That's a baseline you establish at the very beginning of a new relationship. Also, communication is a very important part of co-parenting, and understanding you're not going to always get your way, right? But one of I think the most important things, and maybe it's sometimes the hardest thing to do, is removing your emotion out of it.
Yeah.
You know, the opposite of love is not hate; it's actually indifference. So because hate is also a very strong emotion for somebody. So if you can just remove emotion. And I know it's hard, right? But because we're human and we're emotional beings. But if you can just remove emotions, and that's something that I work on, especially because I have primary custody So I guess you could somewhat say that I have the upper hand, but I really have to just, so it takes even more for me to just say, that's her mother, and I don't have to like her even to be able to communicate what's best for our daughter. So I'm able to getting better at just doing that. Just being able to just keep the communication between the lines of, our daughter's name is Anaya. What is best for Anaya? What does Anaya A, B, and C need to be doing on each and every day, and that kind of thing. We don't talk every day, but we understand those things, and just being able to communicate in a manner that's without emotion. That I think that's one of the most important and the biggest things to it.
You know what? I have a devil's advocate situation too. What we were talking about establishing, what the relationship is between you and your child's, other parent. Sometimes the problem is that you still have a relationship with that parent. And you move down to someone else, but you ain't really letting this one go. And we know that happens.
Well.
Where, it makes it very difficult to co-parent. If you're in a situation where, let's say, for example, my ex-husband and I was still going back and forth with him, and I'm trying to move on to another man, I mean, that's instant drama. That's instant
facts.
Problems. And I see a lot of that happening because, you don't necessarily want to move on from that relationship. A lot of the times using the excuse that it's your kids and you want to be there for your kids, and I got to stay over my baby mama house because the kids, and I want to wake up with them on Christmas morning, and I want to be there on New Year's Day, and then you got this other person over here. Yep. So that people got to leave that kind of, toxic, immature stuff alone.
That's a little messy.
That's messy.
That's a little messy.
Yep, she not wrong.
So that she not wrong. I ain't gonna put my boy under the bus. Never mind. I wasn't gonna say his name, no, but it don't matter. I'd be like, bro, you can't. All right, anyway. Well, it's funny. It's funny. We circling back. Oh, by the way, anybody that's about to tune in for WIIFTBP Wednesdays, they not here today. They taking the week off. So sorry, you got me. What's funny about, because we're about to go a little overtime since my the next show ain't going on. We get just a little bit over, just a second. What's funny about that is we circling back to something that happened. We were saying earlier. I was dating this young lady, and she had 2 daughters who I was around pretty frequently because I was over at the house a lot. And their father wanted to meet me, and to be frank, I wasn't even really taking her that serious, to be honest. Like, I'm to be honest. Like, we were dating, but I knew I wasn't marrying. But anyway, that's not beyond the point. But I respected where he was coming from enough to say, well, if I'm gonna be around, even if it's for another 2 weeks, I'm gonna go ahead, So we had dinner, and it was all good, and we Facebook friends or whatever, and then we broke up like 2 months later. But what I'm saying is, I respected my man's position to say, if this dude is going to be around my kids, which I kind of fought and she didn't, and at the end of the day, my decision, I had great kids. I respected him enough to at least, say, hey, I ain't no rapist. I'm a good guy. I don't know if I'm gonna be with your ex-wife long term, but I'm here today. Pleasure to meet you.
60 days from now,
I mean.
And I'm actually a stickler on that. So when I decided, even with my first wife, as that all played out, when I began dating my second wife, who was the first person that met my kids, and this is some 13 years later, first woman that I was dating that met them, I took her to their mom's front door to introduce them before they came out of the house. And she interacted with my kids. The same thing with the second situation. The lady that I'm dating now, before she started interacting with Anaya, I took her to Anaya's mom's front door to meet her. That may sound crazy, but I'm just very I'm a stickler and kind of anal about that kind of thing. If you're gonna be around my kids, because you might be shady, dude, but you ain't gonna be shady if I look you in your eye. And know that I'll beat your ass if you do something about kids.
Right. It changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
But I mean, I want you to know that I'm present. I want you to feel my presence and feel my eyes. Not trying to intimidate you, but just you're the man. We look each other in the eye. That's what we do. And so when I dated post marriage, I made sure that the person that was going to be, if they were going to be interacting with my kids, then they need to meet their mother.
You better than me. I ain't gonna lie. When I first got divorced and I would have my kid, because we were splitting time. I ain't gonna lie. My sons met all types of motherfuckers. I was awful. I ain't even gonna lie. My sons met everybody. Shit. Not everybody, but anybody.
Hey, Keisha.
Anybody that was around more than anybody that came around on their days, they were staying with me. Because
you weren't worried they were gonna go back to your ex? Like, yeah, I met this girl named Jasmine.
I don't give a fuck. Actually, it wasn't Jasmine. That's funny that you said it. I don't give a fuck what she was gonna do. What she's gonna tell them. Shit. She was holding me back from all this good. Anyway. Married her ass to. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But no, I was in retrospect, I should have been better. Because here's the thing though, because I had boys. So I wasn't less worried. I was less concerned about how they would see it.
Of course, because if it was girls,
if it was my daughter, I wouldn't have had none of them.
But I have to agree, because that's some, part of the reason why I'm very cautious about who I ever bring around my daughters. I think of my daughters and them not I have to be very certain about a person before, I'll let them, come into my daughter's life, or even just come to my house, so. It's a big deal.
Yeah, this is different.
But I don't have boys. I think it would probably be the same if I had sons.
No, I'm sure it is, and it should have been. I should have been a little bit better about it. But
one shit. It's fine. As Jamal has pointed out,
what
toxic masculinity.
Fuck Jamal. I'm sick of Jamal. Sick of Jamal ass. Jamal let you hide at my house when you was online. I'm sick of you selling me out. No, that's what's up. Hey, y'all. What you gonna say? You what?
No, I just said with his old long comment, having ass. I know.
Right. Jamal ass had bullet points in this guy. Think Twitter. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. It's funny you said that, Jamal. I was just about to say that. I think actually, that glimpse into my hold'em for that little while before I met my current wife, actually it made my sons a little different. They're not built like that. They're very much more respectful and considerate about women, and they feel like my son's probably watching. I ain't gonna sell them out, but anyway, they treat their relationships with women differently than I did in that point in time in my life. And
that's good.
And I think that was an example of how not to do, and they took that example of how not to do.
Well, let me ask you this: who do you think does that more?
Who does what more?
Bring other people around their kids. You think men or women?
Oh man, absolutely.
I disagree. I think women do.
You think women do?
I do, because I think myself women.
Oh, because you gonna say because they got the kids more?
No, because we always trying to find a daddy, especially if they father ain't shit. Then they always want to find daddies for their children, and it's like
okay. Well, I think we're talking about different. I think we're talking about now we're talking about socioeconomic shit, right?
That was a disagreement.
It does. I don't think you're bringing random.
That's me.
No, I don't think you're bringing random, because I think women that have a certain. God damn it, I'm sound bougie.
Poor women?
Yeah, broke bitches. I ain't gonna lie. If we being honest, broke bitches.
I can't even disagree.
The pores. It's the pores.
The pores. It's the pores. It's the fucking pores.
And men probably have more random women that meet.
That's probably a fair argument.
That is something I did have an issue with my ex-husband with. But after we got divorced, like within the first year or two, he had already, introduced my daughter. He had a woman move in with him like a year after we got divorced, and he knew her a few months and had my daughter sharing a bedroom with her son. And I'm like,
oh wait,
that's
a little over the top.
Whoa. Like, what is going on here? You don't even know her. And she was gone like 2 months later. And I'm like, I had to address him, because then he had another woman who had like 5 kids. And I'm like, listen. you got to make up your mind and figure out what's important here, because you can't be having all these random women around my daughter. Like, that was.
Yeah, no.
All right, I take my statement back. Maybe
that.
it's y'all. That's fucking crazy.
It's them. Don't let him off the hook. It's them.
Take it back. Y'all
No, wait, hold on, though. Wait, real talk though. I dated him where I walked in there. I was like, this your new daddy. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. But
what do y'all think about discipline? And maybe this is kind of off of co-parenting, but
this is a great question.
When you have the new person, how do you feel about them disciplining your children? Now, I'll start just so I can get mine out the way.
Since you asked, go ahead, bro.
I already see what's coming.
I wouldn't have. If that man has met me in my face, then I expect him to be my surrogate. And if we have developed a relationship and have, and I can feel and sense that he loves my kids the way that I do, then I have absolutely no problem. In fact, I would be mad if he did not discipline them if I were not there. That's my take on it.
I 100% agree. I had this conversation with my older two stepfather. I almost hate even call him stepfather, but it is what it is technically. But they're other dads, as far as I'm concerned. And he was like, man, this, that, and the other happened, and I wanted to snatch him up, but I didn't. And I was like, no. Snatch that little motherfucker up. Drag him up and down the block if you got to. Let it be known, and then call me. Then I'm going to come over, and I'm going to snatch him up, and I'm going to drag him up and down the block, just so he knows we on the same accord. But if for some reason I'm in Arizona and I can't get there, he got to know that you got the right, if he steps out of bounds, to do what you got to do the same way I would. And if we are on the same accord and we got to respect and a mutual understanding, and I know, like Eric said, I know he loves them. I know he loves them. I know he only wants the best for them. Do what you got to do, bro. Because to be frank, and a lot of cats don't want to embrace this or address this. When they got married and they started living together, he sees them more than I do. It's just facts. It just is what it is. He sees them on a daily basis. And even when we're doing the half and half thing, he sees them at least half the time that I do. But when we're doing the every other weekend or whatever the case may be, depending on school or whatever, he sees them more than I do. So they have to understand that, one, there's no bullshitting either one of us. We're all in constant communication. You can't play this game of, let me ask dad, because dad and mom don't talk. As soon as you ask your mama, we on the As a matter of fact, but always be like, would y'all stop talking? Shit. Can we have some privacy in our conversations?
Well, I think it matters the relationship too, because I can say that now about, my older daughter's stepmother and father. I mean, she lived with them through high school. They had to deal with all of the horrible attitude years of waking her up in the morning and getting her nasty attitude, and so I fully trusted her stepmom to deal with her and handle her, because we had that relationship from the time Esau was 3 years old. She's been with her since she was a baby. Now it's different if you're talking about a girlfriend that just came 2 months ago, doesn't know me well enough, doesn't really have a connection with me, doesn't communicate with me regular, doesn't know my parenting style or how I deal with my daughter and how we handle conflict together. Like, that has to be developed over time. Yeah. If she just showed up a month ago and she's, trying to put her hands on my daughters, and I don't put my hands on my daughters, I mean, that's going to be...
Then you got to put your hands on her.
You already know. But, so it has to be a thing where you guys have gotten to know each other and have that communication and understanding with each other of how you all want to, co-parent together.
Yeah. It's built. It's built over time, just like we said earlier. It's definitely built. You can't just jump into these things. It's built over time. There's a respect. There's a trust. And you show and prove over time that you're worthy of this, behavior or this blessing in a certain fact, because if you can't, if it's responsibility, if you don't have the authority, power, or comfortability to discipline the child that lives in the house with you, you're hamstrung. Your hands are tied behind your back in a certain regard, and it weakens your position as an authority figure in your own home. Mm-hmm. And who wants to live like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sean?
Absolutely.
If I'm totally transparent, I actually really haven't thought about this, honestly. I would like, because I'm the disciplinarian out of me and Sally's dad, and that doesn't mean he doesn't, discipline her when he has to. But if she looks at either of us like she gonna get in trouble, she know it's gonna be me.
That's daddy's little girl.
I mean, he gets on her when she does something, but yeah, I'm the disciplinarian. What I would hope is that whoever he brings in, the way he disciplines her, she mirrors that. And she would work with him on that, because I can't expect her to discipline her like I do. I'm hard on her, and I can admit that. And I would not want her to have two maternal figures being hard on her.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
You hard on her.
I am hard
you
on
hard
her.
on that little baby girl.
And I don't want her to have two. Not that hard.
I'll be on the phone. She'll be like, "Shut up, little girl. Go play the piano." I don't care. This.
Your friend.
I don't care. This 5 a.m. on Sunday.
Parlez-vous français? No, but I would want her to have a maternal figure that's not as hard on her as I am. I'd want her to have that balance. So I would hope that I would definitely give her reign to correct her if something needs to be corrected, but I would hope that she isn't as much of a disciplinarian as me, because she needs that balance, and I understand that.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Final thoughts. We a little bit over time because ain't no Week Ho Wednesday. Yes, the show is called Week Ho Wednesdays, by the way.
Week Ho Wednesday?
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I heard it properly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I knew a few people that could come on if they need.
He'd love to have him.
Does he make up strongholds by the end of
He
it?
probably makes them weaker.
Oh, okay.
They're probably weaker hoes by the time the show's over.
Yikes.
Final thoughts, Mitch?
Ooh, man, when you're talking about co-parenting, the biggest thing to me is just really setting your own pride and ego aside. That is, to me, usually the biggest thing that trips us up when we're trying to deal with, that other parent, and really just considering what's best for our children. What's ultimately going to get us what we need to be able to raise them and give them what they need from us. So, it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be a simple thing. But just remembering that you started as a family, you started as a family, and you want your child to always feel that they have a family, in a sense.
Nice.
Me?
Sure.
I'm going to give you some advice from my father. We ended our relationship when I got older.
Nice.
Shit when I was an adult. But
Nice.
we were great by the time he passed when I was adult. But he told me this is how he managed his marriage, and I took this into my co-parenting relationship. He said in a marriage, you have to find the 3 things that you are not going to budge on. He's like, just 3. Everything else is negotiable. He's like, but you find your 3, you stand on those, you make it clear that's what you unwilling to budge on. And people usually, for him, he said, usually in a marriage that helped him make it work. And I've used that tool in my co-parenting. I have my big 3. You already know how I'm going to be about that. Everything else, I'm pretty malleable on. And I think that's just a good way to be with people, period. Because you can't try to manage everything. You can't. You'll drive people crazy. Just find the things that matter to you the most, stand on those, and be flexible with everything else.
That's good.
Good advice.
Most of us, that's great advice. And most of us are probably too old for this advice, but that's great wedding advice as well.
Yeah.
5 and 3. Listen, it is.
Yeah.
I want an open bar. I want a steak. And I want all my ex-hoes to be able to come. That's all I asked for.
How'd that work out for you?
I got 2 of the 3.
I'm scared to ask which 2.
I didn't have steak. All right, anyway. EY, what you got, baby? Final thoughts.
Yeah, so there is no mythical award being given for single dad of the year or single mother of the year. So there is no trying to win that category. The reward is having healthy children at the end of the day. So communicate, even when you don't want to. It's about the kids at the end of the day. So that's really my advice. Communicate. And you have to, like she said, be malleable, be willing to give and take the L sometimes.
Yeah.
I love that my guests say shit like malleable. It's for those out there who are watching and don't know what malleable means.
You have educated people in this audience. Don't do that.
I'm kidding.
I'll look it up real quick.
They at least
He
have
was like,
an
wait.
associate's degree. They at least got an associate's degree. They good.
No, that's all good. Hey, thank you all for coming and being a part of this. This is a great conversation. I hope that the folks that watched did get something out of it. Remember, it's about the kids. That's really kids, whatever it is. Don't all that extra shit you do that like, cause you mad cause he broke up with you, he fucked that other bitch and she cheated. That's all outside of the boundaries of what happens with you and your children and y'all's relationships and having healthy, intelligent, wonderful kids. Keep that shit out of it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for some folks. Keep that shit out of it. One has nothing to do with the other. That's why y'all not together now. Leave that relationship over there. Keep your kids first and foremost. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. Another episode of In the Zone podcast. What's in it for the Black People Network? Next week, I haven't decided yet, but I think I'm going to break down the life and career of one Samuel L. Jackson. It's a very interesting conversation to have outside of his body of work in movies, which is amazing. But there's a lot of information I found out about this brother while I was camping and didn't have shit better to do. I think we're going to have this conversation. Anyway, next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we'll be here one way or the other. Appreciate y'all. Peace.